A squad of U.S. Marines possesses the deadliest discipline and firepower in modern military history. Equipped with heavy machine guns, high-caliber ammunition, and night vision technology, these soldiers are trained for a single purpose: to eliminate the target at all costs. But what if these 22 fully equipped Marines were to go to war against the Pharaoh's massive empire in the heart of ancient Egypt? Looking at historical records and military logistics, the Pharaoh could have had a total of 100,000 soldiers across the empire. However, in the ancient world, gathering such a massive force at a single point is a logistical nightmare lasting months, costing hundreds of thousands of gold pieces, and instantly draining water supplies. The Pharaoh would never stack his entire army in one place for a mysterious threat emerging in the desert. Besides, modern Marines are not inexperienced enough to face 100,000 men in the open desert. In a pitched battle, if thousands of arrows were launched or chariots charged, no matter how advanced their Kevlar armor was, these 22 soldiers would run out of ammo within hours, and the circle would tighten. That is why, from the very first second, the Marine Squad Lieutenant deploys an asymmetric warfare strategy, moving entirely in the shadows and targeting the enemy's nerve centers, supply routes, and chain of command. Their goal is not to clash head-to-head with an army, but to paralyze the empire step by step from within. The tactical operation begins with the team hiding in the steep, rocky canyons of the Egyptian desert. In a desert environment where daytime temperatures reach 50 degrees Celsius, the soldiers lie completely motionless beneath thermal camouflage sheets that conceal their body heat. They keep radio chatter to a minimum, plot local water sources onto a digital map, and scan the depths of the desert with thermal cameras to chart patrol routes. Checking their logistics, each soldier carries 8 loaded magazines, spare ammo crates, several blocks of C4 explosive, water purification tablets, and M72 anti-armor rocket launchers. To avoid wasting this limited ammunition, every single bullet must hit its target. A patrol unit of 150 men sent from a regional Egyptian outpost advances toward the canyon entrance with massive bronze spears and 2-horse chariots. But the Egyptian soldiers fail to realize what kind of trap they are walking into. The Marine lieutenant positions his men and sets up directional claymore mines in the narrow bottleneck of the canyon. Not a single Marine pulls a trigger until the Egyptian patrol gets within 300 meters. The moment they enter the choke point, the directional explosives are detonated. As desert sand blows into the air with a massive shockwave, thousands of steel ball bearings instantly bring down the frontline chariots and horses. The Egyptian soldiers have never seen a shockwave, a smokeless explosion, or a muzzle flash in their lives. Immediately after, a Marine sniper stationed atop the cliffs neutralizes the Egyptian unit's commander in a single shot from 900 meters away with a thermal-scoped rifle. Faced with this invisible, loud death coming out of nowhere, the Egyptian soldiers are completely stunned. Seeing the massive holes torn through their comrades' bodies, they drop their weapons and scatter, believing they are facing angry desert gods descended from the sky rather than men. The team clears the first contact zone without wasting a single bullet, but instead of holding their position, they immediately relocate to another area. When night falls, pitch darkness takes over the desert. The Egyptian army lights massive torches and stands guard around outposts with trembling hands. Terrified by the strange events of the day, the soldiers huddle together in groups. But for the Marines, nightfall means hunt time. The soldiers flip down their 4th-generation night vision goggles mounted on their helmets and activate the infrared lasers on their weapons. Thanks to green and white digital displays, the darkness becomes as clear to them as daylight. The lieutenant splits the team into 4 squads and launches the night operation. The first group infiltrates the regional Egyptian outposts, supply depots, and archer ammunition tents. The guarding Egyptian sentries fail to spot these silent shadows emerging from the dark. The Marines quietly neutralize the outer patrols one by one using suppressed pistols and combat knives. Timed C4 explosives are planted inside tents, grain hoppers, and dry timber storages. After setting the detonators, the team quietly retreats, firing the detonators once they are 2 kilometers away. Massive explosions erupting in the center of the outpost turn supply depots into balls of fire. These explosions illuminating the night are seen by the Egyptian soldiers as a curse from the gods, leading hundreds of troops to desert into the sands. The second infiltration team targets the region's most critical water sources and wells. The Egyptian army's survival in the desert depends entirely on these wells. The soldiers blow open and collapse the covers of the water reservoirs, rendering the wells unusable. Cut off from food and water supplies, Egyptian outposts are completely paralyzed. Egyptian commanders cannot fathom how an invisible enemy can strike 3 different locations simultaneously. Mounted courier lines carrying communications are also picked off along the roads by snipers. Thus, the Egyptian command loses connection with the central leadership entirely. Meanwhile, the third group advances to the banks of the Nile River without leaving a trace. The river is the empire's main logistical artery. Wooden warships of the Egyptian army and massive grain-carrying barges patrol along the river with torches. A 4-man dive team, selected from the squad, submerges into the cold waters of the river wearing black tactical wetsuits and closed-circuit rebreathers. Climbing onto the undersides of the ships without letting a single air bubble reach the surface, the Marines silently take down the sentries on deck. Underwater C4 explosives are attached to the wooden keels and oil barrels of the ships. When the timed explosives detonate, the Egyptian fleet in the middle of the river begins sinking in flames from chain reaction explosions. Sinking wooden wreckage completely blocks river traffic, bringing supply shipments to a halt. The civilians and soldiers along the riverbank are overcome with horror as massive flames erupt out of nowhere in the middle of the water. The Egyptian army's river supply lines and escape routes are destroyed in a single night. Reports of consecutive explosions, burning depots, sunken ships, and deserting soldiers finally reach the pharaoh's palace. To preserve his shattered divine authority and prevent his army from collapsing completely, the pharaoh gathers his personal guard and marches to the region. The pharaoh sets up a massive camp on a strategic hill near the riverbank with his 3,000-man elite guard unit, gold-plated war chariots, and a massive royal tent. With this lavish display, the pharaoh aims to prove his divine power to both his people and his soldiers. However, this is the exact opportunity the Marine squad has been waiting weeks for. The enemy is concentrated in a single location, and the ultimate target, the pharaoh himself, has walked right up to them. There is no need for a 100,000-man army to gather in the desert. It is time to cut off the head of the empire directly. At midnight, the Marine lieutenant gathers the entire squad and lays out the final assault plan. The objective of the operation is not to kill the pharaoh, but to capture him alive. Because according to ancient Egyptian beliefs, the pharaoh is not a human, but a living god on earth. A nation and army whose god is taken prisoner will lose the will to fight instantly. On a moonless, pitch-black night, the 22-man squad begins approaching the pharaoh's 3,000-strong elite camp from 3 different flanks. Using laser designators, 4th-generation night vision devices, and suppressed M4 rifles, the camp's outer perimeter is silently cleared. Before the elite Egyptian guards can comprehend what is happening, they are taken down by combat knives and suppressed gunshots. A group of soldiers set C4 explosives at the Warhorse stables right next to the camp. With the detonation of the fuses at midnight, hundreds of war horses charge in panic into the heart of the camp. Horses trampling tents and breaking fires cause utter chaos inside the Egyptian camp. In the middle of this madness, the main assault team moves straight toward the pharaoh's gold-plated tent. Flashbangs and stun grenades are tossed right into the middle of the heavily armored elite Egyptian guards surrounding the tent. The blinding light and high-frequency sound wave exploding suddenly completely daze and deafen the Egyptian guards. Right after that, a Marine shoulders an M72 anti-armor rocket launcher, aims at the royal chariot next to the tent, and pulls the trigger. Exploding with a terrifying roar, the rocket blasts through the elite guard barricade in seconds. The flame and shockwave from the explosion force the surviving Egyptian soldiers to flee in desperation. Within 30 seconds, all physical resistance around the royal tent is completely broken. The Marines slice through the tent fabric with knives and breach inside, securing the area. Inside the tent, the Pharaoh and his closest generals wait cornered in sheer terror. Seeing these 22 men before him, faces smeared with black tactical paint, green lights glowing over their eyes, holding roaring and smoking black weapons in their hands, the Pharaoh drops to his knees, believing he is facing divine wrath. The Marines secure the Pharaoh's generals with zip ties. As for the Pharaoh, he is brought outside the tent alive. As the sun rises over the desert horizon, the Egyptian camp lies in flames and smoke. The Marines march the captured Pharaoh up to the top of a high cliff, holding him in full view of the entire camp. Seeing their living god kneeling helplessly in the hands of these strange, powerful warriors, Egyptian generals, commanders, and thousands of fighters drop their weapons and surrender. The 1,000-year-old military and religious authority of the Egyptian empire collapses completely in a single night. Without ever engaging in an open-field pitched battle, 22 U.S. Marines could easily conquer an empire from 3,000 years ago through purely irregular warfare and declare themselves rulers. For more videos like this, you can click the playlist on the screen. Don't forget to leave your thoughts below because I read all your comments. Make sure to like the video and subscribe. See you in the next video.